What's up? I hope you guys are doing good, having a good day, and are ready for another series in the video we like to call Underrated Throwers. So, today we got Greer, the American record holder for men's jav at 91.29 meters, as you can see. And I think he's very underrated, one, because he's, I think, and quote me if I'm wrong in the comments or whatever, he's the last 90-meter American jav thrower. And it's been quite a while since we've had a really good jav thrower, and I mean by really good that can actually make the final in a Worlds or Olympics, so, or just anybody over 86 meters in jav, which I mean is a lot, but it's still really nothing. It won't really do that much on the world stage or Olympics, so, but he is also underrated because I think he does a lot of very unique things that I don't believe at least any other 90-meter thrower I've seen. They don't do a lot of the stuff he does, and he has very unorthodox technique, and you normally don't see that in javelin because there's not really that much room to be super unorthodox. So let me just play this video in full speed. And it cuts off. He does a lot more forward runs than that usually, but it just cut off that part, so I don't know why. But as you can see, not that much of penultimate, and I don't know if you could see that in that, but his block is very unorthodox too. So we'll get into it. Forward run, keeping the jav very, very stable. Good transition. Very nice. Love that his feet are pointing at 45 degrees and not straight. You want it at 45 degrees so it's a lot easier to open your hips when you go into your penultimate. Alright, there's his penultimate. And this is really what I want to get into. So he does a good penultimate. Does everything right, and then he bends his left knee at his block and then kind of crashes with his hips. And normally if you see someone do this, you wouldn't think that they throw over 90 meters. Normally this is considered a mistake. I don't know why he does that. It looks, I think he has a knee, I can't tell because of the quality of his video. I don't know if he has a knee brace or something. I don't know if he's had a knee injury or what. I don't know why he does this. Is this just something he just does? But normally what happens when you watch any other 90-meter thrower, and this is what you're normally taught, is to just lock it out. And he does lock it out and then bends it. And he bends it out quite a bit. So normally what happens is like in practice and stuff, because you don't want to like fully block all the time in practice because you just blow out your knee because it's so much pressure. You'll do like a soft block where like you slightly bend it a little bit just so the knee doesn't take a bunch of force. It's not the most optimal like thing for distance, but to save your knee, it's a good thing to practice, especially if you're not wearing spikes. But here he locks it out and then immediately bends it when he goes to transfer. And I think that's just very curious. I'm not even saying, well, I guess in a way I'm saying it's wrong because really nobody else does it, but obviously it works for him. This is something I don't recommend doing because, I mean, he's built different, I guess. I don't even know what to even say. He just breaks all the rules of the block. So he's really the only jav thrower I've seen that is throwing over 90 meters that does that. Anyone else locks it out until the jav leaves, but it bends while it's still in his hand. But let's look at this, his penultimate. So really nice drive with the right foot going forward, knee going down, the right knee going down, and then he's done with his right side and kind of drags his foot, does a foot flip, and drags his foot. So that's what you want. So in jav, So this is also another thing I wanted to think, because I don't think I've said this in any of my other jav videos in this series. If you have the option and you're a jav thrower, do not do any other event, at least throwing event. Do only jav, because jav is so much different and takes such a specific type of athlete. You know, like not many, the closest build I guess is a discus thrower in terms of a thrower, because you have to be super mobile in the shoulders. But jav, I mean, they're basically like really hyper mobile sprinters. Basically, that's kind of what they're built like, except a little more lanky. That's usually like a good build for jav. All right, and really, that's not conducive to throw any, especially like a shot put or hammer thrower is usually not conducive. Another reason why jav throwers should only be jav throwers is because just the amount of stress that you put on your body. If you're doing any other event, you know, you're just risking even more injury for no reason, you know. So, I mean, because jav is so hard on your body compared to everything. It's probably like the hardest on your body for like any sport that's not a contact sport. You know, and anybody who's thrown jav will know. Like, I've never met a jav thrower, and I've spoken to several. Never met one that said, "Oh, I feel good." You know, he's like, "Oh, my back always hurts, my knee always hurts, my ankles always hurt," and I mean like hurt. You know, like they're just always, because you're just put into so many weird positions that your body is not really supposed to be in. I mean, if you just look at this elbow right here, name me another sport besides baseball. But even then, jav is harder on your elbow than baseball, because you're basically throwing a baseball. Basically, not quite the same, except it's super long. So you're throwing it over a longer period of time. So it's just more stress on your body for longer. So it's quite crazy. And also, another reason, and why I wanted to point this out in this video, why jav throwers should only be jav throwers, is because the release is so different. Like, the whole throw itself is so different. There's really no rotation at all. You know, it's the only similar throwing event is like glide, just because it's glide shot put, because it's the only linear event. But even then, you know, you're running and then you go sideways. And then the biggest thing, and why I think it's a detriment to throw like shot put and discus, especially for a jav thrower, is because you do the opposite. So normally in shot and disc, you want your right to land and then left to land, and then you keep your right foot on the ground and keep working the ground and actually turn on the ground. In jav, your right foot lands, you don't really turn, you push forward and then turn your hips a little bit, but your foot kind of just like a little foot flip, and then your foot's off the ground. And then all your weight transfers forward over your left foot. So you kind of push yourself with your right side over your block. And if you did that in shot and disc, not only would you foul, but it just wouldn't go very far. You know, because you're taught in shot and disc, rightfully so, to stay over your right side and turn around your left side, and then go a little forward at the end. And jav is just the complete opposite. And also your block is different too. Your block is not only super wide, but I know you can't see it because it's a side angle, but in jav, so this is your right side. So normally in shot and disc, this is your right leg, this is your left leg. Alright? In jav, your right leg's here, and then your left leg is here. And this is like the front. This is you going forward. So your left foot goes really wide as well out. And this is to keep you balanced, and because I mean, look at you're basically just doing the splits here. What, like for like a really pro level thrower. So you need to go a little wider. You can't walk a tightrope. You can't be heel to toe in jav. You got to be like heel to toe times like 2. It's hard to explain when you can't really see it, because this is a side view, but if you look at like a front view of a jab thrower, you normally see their left foot way wider than you would in shot and disc. So, and yeah, and also the right foot isn't doing anything here. He's just going over his left, and that's how you throw jab. But that's not what you should do in shot and disc. So it's just super weird. Now, I will say, if you have no choice, like if your collegiate coach is making you or something, or your high school coach, if you throw jab in high school, as some, like I think the East Coast still allows that, and then Arizona allows on the West Coast, and then I think maybe Oregon, I forget though. But, you know, if you're forced to do different things, then I guess you're forced to. But if you have a choice, you know, if you look at any good collegiate program, you know, the jab throwers are only jab throwers. All right? And they also do different types of lifting, different types of training, because the lifting, you don't, like, you do need to be strong, but it's different types of strength. Like, you don't want to be super bulky or heavy or anything. You want to be light. Like, most jab throwers are like maybe 200 pounds. Really, maybe like 210, maybe, for like the heavier side. But most are like 180 to like 200 pounds. But like lean and super strong. But yeah, like they do a lot of like lifting similar to like triple jumper or a sprinter, with a lot of mobility stuff worked in. So you also train differently. You do a bunch of different stuff. You have to do a whole lot more mobility. Your warm up is different in jab. Like, just everything is so much different in any throwing event compared to any throwing event. So that's my little spiel why I think jab throwers should only be jab throwers. Because it not only will it make them healthier, it'll just make them better as well at jab, which is the goal. And there's not many jab throwers. I mean, you can find shot put and discus throwers anywhere, but jab throwers take a specific type of build. And jab throwers especially should not throw hammer, because it's like the completely opposite build of what you want for hammer. So that's my little spiel. And another thing he does, so let's actually get back to him. So another thing that he does is he has the tail slightly down. I personally coach it a little flatter, because I like it flatter, because when you get into your penultimate, you get this angle. But you see, he can get away with it because he keeps this angle when he goes. He doesn't let the jab dip down when he goes into his penultimate. So that's why he can get away with it. So that's just something to keep in mind. So you can do this. You can cross over with the jab like this if you keep that position and don't let the tail drop. But that also takes a tremendous amount of, one, like, body awareness to know where your jab is, and 2, tip control, and 3, shoulder strength. And I think that's also very overlooked in jab, because you need a lot of shoulder strength to be able to hold the jab up going these speeds, and not only up, but still. You see how his jab's not moving at all? So you'll see a lot of beginners, and the tip will be wobbling, and their arm will be moving all over the place. But once you get comfortable with the jab, and once you start getting a lot of shoulder strength, it just becomes easier and easier to hold the jab still. And you want to hold the jab still because, think about it, if you have like a discus in your hand and it's moving in your hand while you're throwing, are you going to throw that very far? No, it's probably going to come out of your hand very weird. And in discus, that'll be like, oh no, I hit the cage. In jab, if a jab comes out of your hand wrong, you can tear your UCL, you can tear a bunch of stuff, you can injure yourself terribly, especially if you're throwing hard. You know, you can injure your wrist. You know, you could do a bunch of stuff, and it won't go far. So that's also another thing to watch out for, is do a lot of tip control stuff. Alright, so that's my spiel. Good recovery. Cuts off a little bit his recovery. Well, not really, but good recovery. And that's also another thing you'll notice here. He's all his weight's going forward, and then he has to stop. And then he's under control, and now he's watching where the jab lands. All right? So that's another thing to keep in mind. Whenever you're doing almost any kind of jab stuff, you want to practice following through over your left side. And this is if you're a right-handed thrower. Always want to practice that follow through, because you really never want to practice staying grounded with that right foot, because in the actual throw, you're not going to be grounded very long. Like, if you take a look, and I know this is a really long time, but if you look, his right foot does not really stay on the ground very long, because you're in spikes. You on a track, you're not gonna turn. Like, your foot can't turn, and it's really slow to do. The other reason why you don't want to turn your right foot is because the jab weighs basically nothing. For men 800 grams, for women 600 grams. So you don't have to take the time to release it as much as you do in shot put and discus. So that's another reason why you don't have to really turn on the ground very long, is because the release happens so much faster than shot and disc. So that's another reason. But the main reason is, you have spikes on track, and you really can't turn. So you'll see a lot of jab throwers, and there's a good drill where you just walk or you run, do like crossovers down the track holding the jab, and you just let the left foot land, or you do a hit flip, a foot flip, which is this, how his foot, and normal, yeah, well, I guess, maybe you can't see it. Normally, normally what happens is you drive your right foot, drive the knee down, drive forward with this right foot to propel yourself forward, and then to make sure you don't jump up and your chest stays up while your hips are going down, you do like a little foot flip, which means that like you flip your foot to the outside of the foot and then kind of drag it to keep you going forward instead of up. So he doesn't really do that, but he does keep his right foot on the ground, so that's good. But yeah, like he doesn't do like the dragging part, but he does go on the outside of his foot, and that's what you want. And you'll notice when he releases, the chest is going down. And this is mainly why you don't want to block with a bent knee, with a block left knee. With a bent block in jab, is because then your chest collapses a little too early. Normally you see jab throwers and their chest stays up. Like his chest stays up here, and then it keeps going down and he's releasing down like this. Normally you see the chest stay up like maybe for another frame or two to get an even bigger stretch. But when your block collapses, you can't really do that. So, because it just makes your chest go forward, because it makes you break at the hips a little. So, it's a very unorthodox throw that I would not recommend. I wouldn't say he's a good technical model. I'm just saying this works for him. I just find it very weird because I've never seen anybody who throws far do this. Like, if a coach saw this and didn't know how far he threw or anything, and just like saw a video, they would think this guy doesn't, like, at least I would. I'd be like, why are you doing that? That's wrong. But he just breaks the rules and he throws. I mean, I can't argue with 91 meters, so shoot, who am I to say? Still holds the American record. Doesn't look like it's going to be broken anytime soon. I think he's still ranked like 15th all time in men's jab history for the new rules, not the old rules. But yeah, I mean, a supreme athlete. Gotta give props. Oh, I also forgot to mention, he's the bronze medalist at the 2007 World Champs in Osaka. So he has actually won stuff. And he was a Olympian and I think Olympic finalist in 2008 Beijing. I'll list his personal best, height, weight, and notable accomplishments in the video description. So, also another reason why I think he was very good is because he was coached by a Finnish guy, a Finnish jav thrower, who I will also link his name, not link his name, but say his name in the video description as well. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something and have a good day.